So the old saying is that there is no such thing as bad press. Well, Disney says, let's test that theory. I decided to do a little video today and talk about the state of Disney as a whole because there's just a lot going on. The walls seem to be closing in around Disney, and it's interesting to watch, and I think we should talk about it. So let's talk about Disney and all of the issues that are facing the company right now. So first of all, you got the normal stuff. A lot of the movies just aren't doing so well. We've got a quarterly earnings report coming out. It looks like Avatar is pretty much going to be the one thing that tries to save them from the fire right now, and the fact that the theme parks are getting back to normal ticket sales. But even when it comes to that, there is looming storm clouds on the horizon of threatening even those earnings. So it's not like they can really rely on those other than just point out, hey, look, we made money and this is why. So let's go into it. Let's start. First things first, there's a new Florida bill. This is one of the more interesting twists. Governor DeSantis has put together a Florida bill that will rename Reedy Creek, which is the plot of land that Disney World sits on, and kind of make it a national park situation, just basically just part of Florida, where Ron DeSantis would now be able to pick the 5-member board that oversees the property that Disneyland sits on and kind of dictates how they can use it and what they can and cannot do on it. And this is really interesting because the bill says things like no current landowner can sit on the board of directors, no one who stands to benefit financially from Disney World, which means no like direct family members, none of that. So you would have 5 people appointed by the governor of Florida controlling the land that Disney World sits on, and that's going to be huge because they're already talking about things like none of those big billboards that you see around the park advertising signs and advertising it. Disney in the past has used public money to advertise the park, and those days will be gone. This would be a tremendous blow to Disney World, and being that the theme park earnings are a huge chunk of what they are touting as a success as far as their financial situation goes, the fact that it looks like within the year that could be completely changed, that really is going to put a dark shadow over this earnings report that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. So a lot of people, the interesting thing to me is a lot of the critics that come out against this. Now, I'm from California, and a lot of people out here, because we have Disneyland in California, are saying, oh, this is unfair. How could DeSantis do this as socialism? Well, first of all, let's not throw stones in the glass house of eminent domain that Californians live in, where the government, they don't need an initiative or a vote to do that to any land that they see fit. The government can just do that here. It's called eminent domain laws. It's ridiculous, but it happens in California. You hear about it. People's houses get seized, their businesses, because the California will come up with whatever reason they want, and now it's public land, and that's exactly what Florida is doing. So if it's good for California, it's good for Florida, I suppose. I happen to notice that Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, is doing commercials all over Florida, has been pretty mum on this subject. So we'll see if that changes. And also, you have to remember, no other theme park enjoys the perks that Disney World has had from Florida all this time. I mean, you don't think that Knott's Berry Farm or Six Flags basically gets to sit in its own little city or own little nation within an American state like the Vatican? I mean, no, that's something that Disney got, and they were fortunate to get it. But then Bob Chapek decided that he wanted to go to war with the hand that fed him, basically, with Florida. And I mean, they're reaping the rewards of publicly speaking out against the state that's given them so very, very much. And I don't feel any sympathy for them on that. And then just to increase the drama, Disney is under fire right now for what's being called an anti-white episode of the kids show The Proud Family, where one of the characters goes on this racial tirade, basically echoing all the worst sentiments of the 1619 Project and going as far as to state that Lincoln didn't free the slaves. I mean, it really was just a hate-filled rant aimed right at right at America and its founding and its founders and the people who live here now. I've seen it. I don't want to play it because of copyright rules and everything else, but it is very, very vitriolic, and it is smack in the middle of a kids show. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know what they're doing, and this is just kind of that woke Disney, quote unquote, going even further down that rabbit hole. And every time they do it, they just alienate and lose fans. And this is the reason why their streaming service is losing as much money as it is. Who wants to subscribe to this? When you're going to sit there and you're going to not only insult your audience, but do it in a show that's meant for, their kids to be able to sit and watch. I mean, when you think of a kids show, this is something the parents are going to sit their kids down, let them watch it, and walk away from it, and trust that there's not anything on there they don't want their kids to see. So you lose that kind of trust, then you lose the parents that are going to do that. From now on, they'll just sit them in front of Nickelodeon, which is a different streaming service, because they don't want to leave their poor kids in front of the TV and have them faced with accusations of being slave owners by their favorite kids show. So that's just one of the headlines that come up. Next, you have this, which is probably the biggest twist in the entire story, which is this Nelson Peltz fella, who is a hedge fund founder, billionaire guy. He is putting a bunch of money into Disney. He was trying to get meetings with Bob Iger, and Bob Iger was just ditching this guy left and right. And he came up with the stupidest and worst excuses. And so finally, Peltz started putting all this money into Disney, and he is trying to get somebody to vote him onto the board of directors of the Disney company so he can vote a no confidence or propose a no confidence vote in Bob Iger and get him ousted before he can even start implementing whatever it is he wants to do. This is outrageously interesting to watch for anybody who cares about like business and how it works. Like if you watch the show Millions on HBO or any of those other shows, this is it in real life. I mean, good Lord. So this guy, Nelson Peltz, he does not like the way Disney's going. He's created this campaign called Restore the Magic, and he wants to be the next CEO of Disney. And this is a dude that, seriously, if you don't let him get what he wants, he will just throw money at it until he gets it. And he's got the capital behind him to do it. So this is going to be a very interesting fight to see how this gears up. And we've got on February 8th, which is coming up here at the time of this recording, is going to be the first publicly or quarterly report for Wall Street under Iger's new stewardship, his second stewardship of the company. And man, it's not expected to do well, and that's just going to put fuel to the fire of what Nelson Peltz is trying to do, which is take control of this company and oust Bob Iger before he gets his second chance and ruins his legacy. Now, when you look at Disney all together, I mean, they have very few positives going for them now and all negatives. If you just Google Disney, which is what I did, and all of these news stories come up, their annual meeting is going to go terrible. Proxy war imminent at Disney. No good headline comes up. Nothing. It is all just the pile on and pile on and pile on and pile on of the problems that Disney is currently facing. And this is, I mean, there's no real way around it. You can trace all of these decisions back to the way they've decided to prioritize, the way they've decided to run their company, and the type of content that they have decided that they are going to put out there, which is, you can call it woke, you can call it progressive, you can call it, modern, whatever you want to call it. It's a type of content that does not have an audience, at least not an audience big enough to support the juggernaut that is Disney. And Disney is the biggest name in pop culture. As it goes, you would think that the trends would go with it, but that hasn't been the case. Disney's own fans are actively fighting against what Disney is doing. And they're doing it with their dollars, and Disney is suffering it on every single front. And the few things that they have are working for them are under threat now because they may be losing the land their theme parks are built on, and they may end up having to sell off a lot of some of their IPs, which means they may end up having to sell Fox off, which means they're going to lose Avatar, which was one of the few profitable things they did all year. So I don't know. And then you even got the theme parks. You got they're rearranging Splash Mountain into a Princess and the Frog's Magic Adventure or whatever, which, okay, that's fine. I like Splash Mountain, and as long as the Big Dip is still there, I'm perfectly fine with it. But a lot of hardcore Disney fans are not happy because they like Splash Mountain the way it is. And they don't like that people call it racist. They don't like whatever it is they don't like or that they love about it. That's their ride. And so you're even seeing some annual pass holders are rebelling against that and canceling their passes or are starting online petitions. Not that it matters. They've already demoed half the ride anyway. So, I just don't, there's nowhere right now that Disney's making people happy. And it's really interesting to see one of the biggest companies on planet Earth. It's like a boat with a lot of small leaks and it's slowly sinking it. It's not like we used to always think the Titanic ran into an iceberg and sunk, and it turns out, no, the iceberg just kind of made a bunch of little cuts along the side. That's kind of what Disney's going through right now. It's just a leak here, a leak there. They just keep coming, and they cannot seem to get their heads back above the water. Nothing they do lands. And they're going to have to change something. They're going to either have to change the type of content they're putting out and start to acquiesce to the more conservative, traditional fan base that really tends to be the majority of Disney's fan base. If you think about it, think of the people who really not just enjoy Disney, but the people who spend their money on it, the people that are your paying customer. You know, you've got the Disney adult. They're going to buy a single ticket or a single pass and a single subscription to something, versus a family that's going to buy a group of passes, a group of tickets, go there to this big vacation, spend a ton of money, buy all your merchandise for the kids and everything else. Who would you rather have as your steady customer? The person that's going to give you one amount, or the person that's going to literally give you 4 or 5 times the amount? And that's the person they're cheesing off. So very interesting to see. And you know, I don't like seeing Disney in turmoil. I really don't. I grew up with it. I've always loved it. I don't like what they're doing now. I personally think that they've ruined, I think, every franchise that they bought. It's fair to say at this point. You know, Star Wars has gone from one of the biggest things in pop culture to a couple of random shows on a streaming service. And Disney is just, it's I don't even know how to describe what Disney is. It's just a swamp, just a bunch of stuff that nobody likes. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I really don't. I hope Disney finds its way out of this. Maybe Nelson Peltz is the answer. Maybe he takes the company over. Maybe this guy knows how to make things successful. He's been doing it for decades. And maybe he can get the reins of Disney and steer it back where it needs to go. Maybe Bob Iger can start dodging some of these bullets and learning from the mistakes of his original tenure and correct this ship. If I were in charge of Disney, I know what I would do is I would start with the people who had been the decision makers up to this point, because a lot of people like to look at the creators and the writers and the artists and all these people who came up with all this stuff. And yeah, I mean, that's fine. But at the same time, somebody had to listen to their pitches and say yes and then write checks to get them produced. And those are the people who I most hold responsible. It's just, I say the same thing in comics. The problem with the comic books industry right now isn't the creators and the writers and the Tumblr artists and everybody else is coming through and just making garbage. The problem with the comic industry is the editorial and the upper management folks that are hiring these guys that are okaying these stories and are putting them out. I mean, you get a writer on board your favorite comic book and they hand you a script and you say, no, I do something different. They're going to go do something different. Or you can let them indulge whatever, agenda they want to put into the book, and then you just print it, no questions asked. And that seems to be what Disney has been, or what Marvel has been doing, as well as DC. So, yeah, Disney's got a long way to go. And right now its trajectory is downward. Whether or not they can change it, I don't know. We'll keep an eye on it. I thought this video would be good because when I was trying to find out what the deal is with Disney, there's just so much. And so I figured we could cover all in one take and just do like the Disney video. Maybe we'll do a sequel as more stuff develops and if the situations change. I'll definitely follow this Florida bill, see what happens there. But that's pretty much it. If you guys like Disney, are you fans of current Disney? Are you fans of old Disney? Do you want to see it change? Do you like the direction they're going? Let's just talk about all that in the comments below. While you're down there, do all the usual stuff. Hit like, subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber, and I will see you on the next video. See you then. Bye.